NASA's always got a billion things going on at the same time, from catapulting spacecrafts into the atmosphere to capturing photos that date back to the beginning of time. Thanks to the space dudes, there's a lot that we know about the unknown now, and now they're even developing tech for others too. In this video, we'll talk about Japan's PRIME telescope and the cool new detectors NASA's delivered to them. First off, fresh delivery from NASA. Whoa, what do we have here? Looks like NASA's Roman mission is extending a helping hand towards other exploratory projects and sending out gifts to help them advance in research and much more. Recently, 4 of the detectors that the Roman mission has tried and tested in their projects were sent over to be used in the 64-megapixel camera in Japan's Prime Focus Infrared Microlensing experiment, otherwise known as PRIME telescope. And everyone's excited to see how the symbiotic relationship between the countries pans out now. NASA had these detectors in surplus nestled somewhere in their storage, and it was a good thing they handed these to the Japanese instead of gatekeeping them. We'll talk more about these infrared detectors in greater detail later in the video, but for now, it's important to realize how important they are in the development of the telescope. The simplest role of a detector is to keep an eye of any changes or abnormalities, and with space tech, it's important to keep a track of the equipment suspended above, because there's no way a human can accompany a spacecraft all the time. Sure, the International Space Station literally exists for this very reason, but we can't have our astronauts steering every object we send into space now, can we? Space tech keeps evolving at a remarkable rate, and sure, 64 megapixels might not sound a lot to you right now, but for space equipment, it's actually pretty impressive. Next, so what are these detectors for? NASA's Nancy Grace Roman Space Telescope team recently flight certified all 24 of the detectors that are needed for the mission, and in the segment, we'll go over why they're important. Like humans have eyes that assess our visual fields and enable us to move according to what we see, these detectors will do the same to any object they're attached to. For NASA and Japan alike are currently being used to their telescope and will be acting as the eyes of the mission, except they also have heat vision. Just like we depend on our eyes for almost all of our functions, the telescope will depend on the heat vision eyes too. John Gygax, a focal plane system manager for the Roman Space Telescope at NASA, says that these detectors will enable all of the mission's science. Every single detector has around 16 million tiny pixels that allow for an image to have an exquisite resolution. And while the Roman mission has the ability to use 18 of them at a time, the additional 4 given to Japan's PRIME telescope will add a more definitive layer to the object's findings. At the heart of these detectors are millions of mercury-cadmium telluride photodiodes that are sensors with the capability to convert light into electrical currents. One of the reasons why cadmium was used in the diodes was because, with the help of this specific material, it was easy for engineers to tune the detector to have a specific cutoff wavelength. Having a limit allows the telescope to maintain a precise focus on the target, which is important when you're capturing images in space. Let's talk about Japan's PRIME telescope. As Japan tries to figure out how to maximize the use of 4 additional detectors given by NASA, let's try to figure out how it can incorporate them into the existing study. As we know, the main goal of Japan's telescope is to offer a field view that is equal to the distance of 6 full moons aligned. That's also a reason why all eyes have been on this telescope. After all, it's one of the only equipments in the world to offer such a huge visual field. Such a view can help locate more exoplanets in the universe, and using the detectors by NASA, we can expect the telescope to capture better images than before. Currently, the observation site for the telescope is in Sutherland, South Africa, and it's adjusted at an elevation of 1,789 meters. Hopefully, the 4K into 4K pixels will have a seamless effect over future findings, and we finally get to discover more sister exoplanets. What's more, what has NASA's Roman mission accomplished so far? NASA's Roman mission started out as a motivation to dig deeper into the science of dark energy and dark matter. The existence of these two aspects in physics is fascinating when you think critically. We don't know if this dark side has cookies, but we do know it has a lot of black holes. Black holes, as we know, are points in the universe where gravity is so intense that it's literally pulling everything toward itself. And when we say everything, it even includes light, which has a hard time escaping. Back in 2010, Roman was prioritized to be the top focus of astronomy in the next decade, and initially, its launch date was announced to be sometime around 2026. The reason for such a delay might be that astronomers want to perfect the model they send out there, and that's also why we've got 18 infrared detectors lodged in different places of the telescope. With the help of gravitational microlensing, Roman can eventually locate extrasolar planets and give us an idea about the cosmic growth of the universe. The curvature of space-time is also another mystery that astronomers are hoping to resolve with Romans. Due to COVID-19, a lot of plans regarding the mission came to a halt because of how quickly the pandemic had disrupted things. But now that the telescope has passed the critical design review, the launch date for the mission will be no later than 2027, as promised by authorities. Moving on to other news that might interest you. Up first, new space tech just arrived, and it can charge your car faster than you think. If NASA can design infrared detectors that are capable of taking high-resolution images, then it can certainly come up with space tech that can charge our cars instantaneously. There's a new type of technology that NASA's working on, and it has the ability to charge our electric cars within 5 minutes. As we talked about earlier, space tech is evolving fast, and it has to be cutting edge enough to impress as well. Researchers at Purdue University were able to develop a subcooled flow technology that results in an impressive heat transfer. This flow boiling and condensation experiment is a way temperatures in space can be controlled, and when this concept was applied to charging cars, then it was found that using a dielectric liquid coolant derived from this experiment actually makes the charging process effective. Following up, SpaceX Crew 5 finally launches to the International Space Station. After multiple delays and a couple of hundred safety checks, SpaceX's Crew 5 is finally at the International Space Station. This mission marks Nicola Mann as the first Native American at the ISS, that too as the mission commander, with Josh Quesada as the pilot. A SpaceX rocket known as Falcon 9 propelled the Dragon Endurance spacecraft that carried the crew to ISS. Crew 5 will be spending the next few months at the ISS, carrying out various research such as cardiovascular health in space and bioprinting, which will also be assessing how fluids behave in microgravity. Phew, we're so glad they finally made it up there because we were totally invested in this commercial crew mission. Such exploratory missions in space is an incredible milestone to achieve, and seeing Native American representation in space is truly inspiring to every person out there who dreams of wearing the NASA logo one day. Last but not least, NASA's working on a plan to keep Hubble alive. The Hubble telescope needs no introduction. It has been with us for around 3 decades now, and we gotta say, that's one steadfast machine. But seeing how it was last serviced in 2009, after being on a total of 5 missions, there are some concerns about Hubble that have worried scientists. The most important one being that the spacecraft is losing altitude. Alright, you guys might call us out on our phobia of getting hit by flying space junk, but you gotta admit, it's a pretty rational fear. And if Hubble is descending too, then we can no longer say that the space littering is limited to SpaceX only. Thankfully, NASA has an idea to catapult the telescope to a higher orbit, and the way to do it is by crashing a SpaceX craft into it. Still, the collective effort to Hubble might just work out, if only the crash doesn't completely destroy the telescope in the first place. Hopefully, Hubble sticks around for longer, as we owe a lot to this guy for expanding our view of the universe. Its recent finding about a protective shield defending a pair of dwarf galaxies is being celebrated as an important discovery, so we hope the intentional crash works out. And that's a wrap for this video, guys. What do you think about Japan's Prime Telescope? Let us know in the comments section down below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more updates like this. Until next time, see you soon.